Ryan, welcome to the show.
Man, glad to be here, man. Honored that you would have me on it.
We're telling a very similar message, and
Yeah,
it just comes from different perspectives, different stories, different experiences.
yeah.
And you and I could probably just sit here and preach to the choir the whole
No,
time.
yeah.
I
I was
don't
gonna
think the
say I'd love
listeners.
to interview you. I want to ask
Yeah,
you some questions.
it's this message is so powerful because we all
Yeah,
fail. Everybody fails and deals with failure, and failure hurts, and failure is this thing that we just inherently want to avoid. But man, the value of failure, we know this, and it's still hard for you. It's still hard for me. But let's go, man. Let's
yeah.
unleash this beast on the audience.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely, man.
you're an all-American basketball player,
Yeah,
and like every basketball player, you have a goal and a dream to play in the NBA, but you didn't
sure.
pursue it.
Yeah,
And then one day you decide to do it. Tell
yeah.
us about that story.
I should qualify that statement. I was an All-American at a D3-ish school. What that means is our school was pending NCAA qualification, whatever that year. So we were in CCAA, which stands for National Christian College Athletics Association. So I like to say it like this: amongst the Christians, I was very, very good at basketball. Now, you have this idea of like going to the NBA, and you also have this reality of like being 6'3", it's like I'm tall, but you're tall until you hang out with people in the NBA. Like you get short really fast. And so I'd always thought about it, but I just started speaking. I just started consulting, just kind of started doing my thing. And then me and my wife got engaged and married on the same day. We go,
That's a whole different story. By the way, we may touch on that, but for the
yeah,
listener,
yeah,
here's a documentary on this. I'm going to
yes,
post the link in the action plan. You can go to
yeah,
jimharshawjr.com/action because that is a massive
yeah,
story in itself. But go ahead. Sorry.
yes. So there's that. Then we go on Good Morning America, the Today Show, and then we ended up going on the Queen Latifah show and getting connected with Kobe Bryant. And that's how my wife surprised me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay, so Kobe comes on video and says, hey, you've got this invitation to come to Staples Center. And you come anytime you want. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got this open invitation to go to a Lakers game, meet Kobe, hang out with the fellas. And so I'm like, what are we gonna talk about? And it's just like, you the only real engaging conversation you're gonna have is your I I needed that common ground. I needed that NBA common ground, and I did not have it. And so I went, it's now or never. So we're gonna go for it. So I start getting back in NCCAA shape, and man, I just realized playing another friend who had just gotten waived from an NBA team. I just realized, like, man, if they waive this guy, he's better than me. He's taller, he's faster, he's stronger. He's a Division I All-American, and even he wasn't good enough. And so I was just like, man, I'm out. Like, forget it. And then I thought, why do we do that? How did I know I was going to fail making an NBA team if I had never tried? And I just thought I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens. And I hope that that spirit is something that like people catch on to of just going, you just I can't tell you since I made this documentary, since this book has come out, how many people have reached out to me that said, I applied for a job I was not qualified for and I got it. Awesome. Like goal completed. I mean, like to assume, oh, I'm not qualified for it. Assume I won't get a call back. The assumption to me is something that we can't assume the failure. I think we got to go for it and see what happens.
So you start training
Yeah,
and you're trying to get back in shape, back into the best shape
yeah,
maybe the best shape you've ever been, even since playing college.
yep.
Then what? You start picking up the phone. What do you? How do you try to break into the NBA? How do you try to get a tryout with the
So
NBA?
the funny thing is like it's the National Basketball Association. I think we see it on TV, they entertain, but it is the best 450 basketball players in the world. It's not open gym. It's it's not a church league. It's not like it is very, very difficult to get into the NBA. The draft recently, we saw the NBA draft. Even those players will not stay in the NBA. It's like I don't think people understand how difficult it is not only to get there, but to stay there. Like they're still trying out, even though their name got called last night. It is so very difficult. And so I'm thinking like for a regular guy like me that isn't D1, that doesn't have an agent, and at the time I was like 26, 27. And so dude, I Googled it and I found the public relations emails for every NBA team on like this PR website. And I just started emailing their PR people one by one and just said, hey, my name's Ryan Lee. I'm looking to fail. And I think you got fans all across the city that are afraid to fail, and I don't think that they should be. Can you imagine if you gave a guy like me a chance to try out for your basketball team? And the Boston Celtics said no, and I was like, oh. But then I thought, did the Boston Celtics just respond to me? Like, let's go. And my best friend said, you emailed the Boston Celtics today? And I was like, yeah, what else was I going to do? He's like, who does that? And I'm like, I don't know. In fact, my best friend said, I wasn't impressed that you got an NBA workout. I was impressed that you sent an email to begin with. That's all I want people to do. Like, send an email. Like, what's the worst that could happen? They're not going to sue me. I didn't obtain their email illegally, although it felt that way. And so, man, about my fifth email, the Phoenix Suns said, "Yeah, we love this idea. Come on Monday." And I was like, "Are you serious?" I couldn't believe they said yes. I expected to be told no by all 30 NBA teams. And I was going to make a documentary about being told no by all 30 NBA teams. Except I never got that many emails out before one said yes. In fact, I got 25 teams that never heard from me. That is
So you still
just,
got a shot out there. You
I
still got
mean,
more chances.
I mean, I'm, I'm like 35 now, so I doubt that it's that season. But man, I love what I do, and getting to work with NBA players today in what I do, I have really found my lane. So
So you get this
nevertheless,
tryout.
yeah, I get a try with the Phoenix Suns. I get there. I went from being the tallest person in the gym to the shortest person in the gym. I went from being fastest to slowest. I went from being youngest to oldest, like that. And here's the deal: in that tryout, I fit in. I didn't stand out. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't have any turnovers. I made the right pass. But what people need to understand about the NBA is it's not a place where people fit in. It's a place for people who are outstanding. I worked out with a guy a couple weeks ago who was on the end of the bench for an NBA team. He missed once. I saw him miss once. I mean, he was outstanding. Like his standard is perfect. You don't miss.
So you had your chances were long, but you still took
Oh
that shot.
no, no question about it. But I looked around that gym and I thought, how in the world did I get here? It's chasing failure. It's just like there's like, how do I have the career that I have now? It's chasing failure. It's waking up and just going for it. And it doesn't always work out exactly how I want it to. People ask me about failures when about tell me about a failure. It's just like, you want me to tell you one from today? Like I don't need to go to the past to do that. I can give you week by week, play by play of my failures, and they're embarrassing, but they help me get better and they help me improve.
You said that chasing failure took you further than chasing success ever did.
Absolutely, no question about it. I mean, I have succeeded in a lot of areas, none of which have landed me on an NBA practice court. And now in NBA locker rooms and NBA executive conference rooms.
For the listener, we're not talking about sleeping in tomorrow or skipping your workout or eating
No,
a bunch of junk food and go, man, I'm doing it. I'm doing it right. I'm chasing failure, right? What are you talking
no,
about?
man, I'm talking about being willing to stare fear in the face and go, you will not steer my life. I will not let the fear of failure steer my career, steer my family, steer my decisions. I'm okay. And because here's what I truly believe about failure. I don't think our real fear is the fear of failure. I think our real fear is the fear of rejection. Because in our world, when we look around, we think of who is accepted, who is loved, who's admired. It's the people who are the most successful. And what we fear when we fail is my parents won't love me as much. My wife will think less of me. My friends won't want to hang around me. I'll get less likes. I won't be able to get followers. That's what's really associated with it. I did not write a book called Chasing Foolishness. I'm not saying you need to go be an idiot. No. I'm saying you should be willing to fail and learn from that and live with the results. Here's the reality. You do everything in your power to succeed. And in the event that you fail, that's okay. We've been taught, especially some people that grow up in some really, really competitive environments where failure is not an option. It is. How many NBA champions are there this year? One. So you're telling me the other 29 NBA organizations are failures? Yeah, they're failures. Oh, that's right. Those owners who are billionaires and those players who are multimillionaires with deals all across the world who are playing in the Olympics right now. It's like, who's making the standard that are making people feel less than because they haven't won a ring? No, you're actually doing pretty good. And I'm pretty sure you're in like the top 0.1% of people in the world. But it doesn't always feel that way because it's championship or bust. It's like, well, actually it's not championship or bust. You can actually be an amazing basketball player, amazing athlete, amazing businessman, businesswoman, whether or not you get these accolades or not.
I interviewed world champion wrestler Jaden Cox, and it was fascinating to hear when he finally had his breakthrough to become successful at the maximum capacity of his ability. It was him when he realized that failure actually is an option. When you realize that
Mhm.
failure is an option,
Yeah,
it takes this weight of the world and allows you to put it down and go compete, right?
absolutely.
And facing down those failures. You talk about this in the book. You talk about there was research done where they were having people who were afraid of jumping out of airplanes. They had them jump out of airplanes,
Yeah,
right, repeatedly.
yeah,
And what I was fascinated with was something interesting happened at the third jump. Can
yeah.
you share that?
So this researcher has her patients jump out of an airplane over and over again, and she would basically put them through a stress test to see how stressed out they were each jump. So the first jump, their stress is through the roof. But by the third jump, their stress was on par with someone that was simply running late to work. And so what I love about that is I just tell people, if you just keep doing it, it gets a little easier. Like people are like, man, are you afraid? Are you scared? You nervous? Yeah, just not as nervous as I was a year ago. But it doesn't mean that I'm not nervous or that I'm not stressed at all. And I just don't have that mindset that I'm ever going to arrive. And I don't feel the pressure to ever arrive. It's like I have this freedom of going, failure isn't going to have a hold on my life. And mistakes happen. You learn from those mistakes and you just keep going. You just keep jumping out of the airplane. Am I going to be a professional skydiver? Probably not. Am I going to be um, a skydiver instructor? No, but I can jump out the airplane every now and then. And I think sometimes people see me at an event and think, man, you were so smooth. I'm like, dude, I was falling from the sky the whole time. You just couldn't see it. It was a nice shirt, but that was about it. And so I just encourage people to keep jumping out of the airplane in ways that they can afford to do. I don't tell people to bet the farm. Don't get a second mortgage out on your house. Don't be foolish, but and be willing to take some risk at the level that you can take it.
You talk about Kobe Bryant and he had an interesting take on failure. You had a chance to meet, one of the all time greats.
Yeah,
Uh, what was his take on failure? I know you didn't necessarily talk about it in the
yeah,
conversation, although he did say he wanted to see the documentary.
yeah,
But what a guy like that who competes at the highest level, he was, the best in the world, or certainly, absolutely considered either the best or among the best for sure.
yeah.
What was his take on failure?
Well, Kobe Bryant has a record in the NBA for the most missed shots. I mean, I don't think people really think about that. I mean, you're talking about arguably a top 5 player all time, top 10, if wherever you want to put him, but like all time great who has the all time misses. So I think for a guy like Kobe, he just had that, it's often called the Mamba mentality of I'm going to continue to grind. I'm going to continue to get better and figure out ways to beat you. But failure is not going to deter me from my goal. Like I'm still going to give 110% no matter what. And that's what I appreciate about his style of play. When I see like a Westbrook, he reminds me of that. Westbrook's going to play hard. Period. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's on a good team, bad team, playoffs. Like you're gonna get the same Westbrook every single time, whether he knows he's going to fail or not. And so I appreciate their mentality towards the game of going, I'm gonna compete.
So for listener, when you look at some of the all-time greats in sports, you know, we talk about Kobe Bryant, all-time career leader in missed shots.
Hmm.
When you look at number of strikeouts leading the league in baseball, Babe Ruth. You look at most career losses in terms of baseball pitchers, Cy Young. We name awards after those people, the people who
Absolutely.
fail the most. And your success is directly correlated to the number of times you fail. So you have to, I say this at the end of my TEDx talk, is like, get out there and fail. Get out there and fail. Find the next thing you want to fail. I have a client who said that at the beginning of this year as we were working on his goals. He's like, Jim, I got to find the next thing I can fail at, because he's been climbing this ladder from, man, this is a guy who started, I mean, he didn't have a shot. He didn't have a fair
Right.
shake at life, and
Right.
now he's crushing it. And man,
Yeah.
he said, Jim, I gotta find my next thing to fail at, because
Oh yeah.
he's just finding those failures and climbing the ladder of life. And man, he's skyrocketing right now, and
Yeah.
it's fascinating to watch. This stuff is real. This stuff that Ryan's talking about, this stuff that I talk about, it's like it's real. You have to go out and seek it, and you have to be okay
Yeah.
with the struggle, okay with the failure. Ryan, I got a question for you about when some people are thinking, okay, well, I'm so far away from what my goal is. That thing that I want to succeed in, I'm intimidated because I'm here and it's way over there or way
Yeah.
up there.
Yep.
How do you deal with that intimidation when you're saying, like, why me? Who am I to fill in the blank? How do you deal with that?
Well, I've got many goals in my life, and I talk about this in the book. The way I deal with big goals is you how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And so I like to talk about daily wins. Daily wins are the idea of just going, I just need to get one win today. Just get one win today. When I'm talking to somebody who's really down about their career, really down about how things are going, I'm like, you just need a W. You need a W that can start to snowball, where you can start to get the confidence that, hey, I can win. And so I just encourage people, hey, you try and get a W this week. If you can get one W a week, you're gonna look back a year from now and realize you got about 50 wins.
And sometimes
50.
that W might look like I emailed the Celtics and they
Yes.
just responded and said no. I mean, you felt like even that was a W, right?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes what I'll do is some people are like, man, we live in a world where everybody kind of needs a website. People get a website idea. I'm like, okay, go to GoDaddy and see if your website is available. You did that, great, W. Next day, buy it. W number two. Do you know how to build websites? No, but you're 2 steps closer than the person that doesn't do anything. And so you got to just get some W's under your belt. What's the next thing? Well, you should probably post on Facebook. Anybody know how to build websites? Or what you're probably going to find out is you probably don't have that great of a budget to get the website you really want, which means you might have to learn how to do that yourself. You can build a website on Wix for free. You can start a podcast on Anchor for free. You can record it on your iPhone. Do I recommend that you do that? No. But if that's what you need to do to get started, great. Then you can figure out, okay, what kind of microphone should I get? Oh, is it going to be video? Is it going to be audio? All of those are little wins that you got to get under your belt. And so I think people just got to, some people think it's got to be perfect before I go for it. It's never going to be perfect ever. So you've got to start taking those little steps, one step at a time. Again, books are written one paragraph at a time. Some people, how did you write a book? I don't know, one word at a time, one paragraph at a time. We just kept adding. There would be days where when I wrote this last book, all I got done for the whole day was a chapter title. 3 words. 12 hours, 3 words. W. I'll take a W. Again, I am one step further than the person that's doing nothing. And so I just encourage people, man, you got to get a W.
And I think this is going to help people overcome that inertia. You have a comical part in the book where you talk about you woke up as you were writing this book. You woke up early, 6 a.m. with the
Yep.
plan to start writing. And you sit down and you go, you know what? I probably need to start with, get some water, right? So you
Yeah.
got some water and you're like,
Yep.
okay, here we go. I probably need to maybe start with some God in my life, some prayer. And you
Yeah.
open up the Bible app and then you get sidetracked, with some text
Right.
messages, right? And then,
Right.
one thing leads to another and like day's over, right?
It always
I mean,
does.
this happens, right? This is part of it. I mean, failure is part of it. And overcoming this inertia, it's a hard thing, but you talk about the small wins. And I think that's a great tactic for overcoming this inertia.
It's jumping off the airplane. It really is. Like, I struggle with procrastination. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I mean, there's always something I'm like, oh, I'd rather go do this. I'd rather be playing with my kids. I'd rather be playing with basketball. I'd rather be hanging on my wife. Or I'm always, sometimes I feel like I'm often scatterbrained in some way, shape, or form. And so it takes a great deal of work for me to really sit down and focus on building content. Even looking at this book that just came out, Chasing Failures, the fifth edition of this book. Well, what's funny about even this fifth edition of this book is I think it's like 39,000 words. Well, the original manuscript is 54,000, which means we cut 15,000 words that we say it. And so I wrote 15,000, I don't want to say bad words, but there was 15,000 words that I put a ton of time into that just weren't working. And that's okay. That's a part of the journey.
Yeah, if it wasn't for those failures, those extraneous words, those words that were a waste of time, if you want to call it, like if it wasn't for doing that, we don't have a
Yeah,
book. You and I aren't talking. You aren't making the impact in the world that
100%.
you're making right now.
100%. And I think everyone thinks, well, if you wrote a book, it's got to be perfect. It's like, well, it's not. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but there's 2 typos in the book.
I didn't find it, so you're good. Good
And
with me.
I
Secret's good
write
with me.
about typos in the book.
You do. That's right.
And so it's almost comical. Like, and we're talking hundreds of people that looked at it. And like you said, you didn't catch it, but I did. And you want to know when I caught it? I caught it doing the audio version of the book.
Ah,
I was reading it out loud and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Who wrote this? They're like, you wrote this. I'm like, no, well, yes, but it happens. I mean, like, these are things that could like keep an author up at night. It's just like, I'm going to sleep. like, like there's, you do your best. Everyone's working hard. And guess what? At the end of the day, humans put it together and we are all very flawed. And I'm going to give you grace for yours. You give me grace for mine. And we wake up the next day and we try to help people. I have never claimed perfection on anything. I used to feel perfection pressure. Now I'm like, man, I want to help. I want to add value and you're going to get a human every single time. I promise you that.
I used to be the same type of person. I used to be ready, aim, 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 before I pulled the trigger. But now I've recognized that this is holding me back and it has held me back in the past. So
Yeah.
I'm more of a ready, fire, aim kind of person now because it's like, I'm okay with failure. I'm okay with taking that step, moving forward, testing, trying, learning something new. I just interviewed for the listener Ron Friedman just a couple episodes back where we talk about this same type of thing, this same concept of like you don't have to risk it all, but take small risks, like move forward, take action. Because as you say in the book, Ryan, you're going to be busy anyway. Like you talk about for like the next 5 years, they're going to happen anyway. You're going to be busy anyway. You're going to be doing stuff
No matter what.
anyway. You're going to be busy. You're going to be doing stuff, busy, busy, busy all day long because nobody's not busy. We're all busy.
Yeah,
But why not get busy chasing those dreams, right?
absolutely. I mean, all of us have the same amount of time within a day, 24 hours. I wake up so many days going, I wish I had more hours today. I don't. I get the same amount of time and everybody else gets. And we're going to spend our time thinking about something. We're going to spend our time putting our energy towards certain things. And I'm going, I think so many people feel stuck. I love what Jim Rohn says. He says, if you don't like where you are, move. You are not a tree. And I think some people think, I'm a tree, I'm stuck. I can't go anywhere. Says who? Who's making all of these rules that says you can and can't? And some people, it's like they're waiting for permission to be happy. It's like they're waiting for permission to start things. And I just don't think that they need that permission to be the person they actually want to be. And so part of the message that I try to give people is being intentional about your future. It's your story. So you might as well give your best to it.
Yeah, absolutely. For the listener, I interviewed Bruce Babashan. He is a boxing coach, and he talked about no one's coming to save you. No one's coming to give you permission. If you want to listen to that, that's episode 161. And by the way, I mentioned Jaden Cox as well. That was episode 176.
How you
Um,
have that memorized is
oh
impressive.
yeah, it sounds like I have it memorized while you were talking. I don't. We won't tell the listeners, but I was
Yeah.
actually pulled up my list of episodes and I found them. So
Okay.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
about to say, that's impressive.
My mom used to work at a national chain. She was at the headquarters, and there were 400 and some stores. She literally knew every single store where every store was in the entire United States, which is absolutely absurd. But I'm not that smart, so.
Wow.
Um, but I digress. So Ryan, we're talking about taking action, right? We're like, people feel stuck. People feel stuck. They feel like that goal or that dream's too far away. You're talking about like moving forward, taking action, do something. Like, what is it? Like, let's give the listeners one thing, maybe two things that they can do in the next 24 to 48 hours. What's an action item that you would recommend that they can do to start moving towards that goal, to start chasing failure?
You need to figure out your next step, not your next 20, not your next 30, not your next 100. Just your next step. I don't care if it's losing weight. I don't care if it's getting a gym membership. You need one step. Google gym near me. W. Congratulations. You have to start moving forward. I know we all have so many excuses. So many. Oh, this is why I can't. This is why I can't. This is why I can't. You're going to spend the next 48 hours. We talked about what you're going to spend the next 5 years doing. You're going to spend the next 48 hours doing something. You might as well do something that is going to add value to the story you want to tell. Just figure out what your next step is. Just one. Most people can't even do that because they feel like I have to. Well, am I going to get a trainer? Am I going to? Don't even worry about that. You need to figure out your very next step. Was it going to be a home gym? Is it going? What's just the very next step? That's where I think people need to go and then do the same thing the following week. And who knows? You're going to look back a year from now and go, I took 52 very small steps and I'm a lot further than I was before.
Yep. I always tell people you can't see step 10 when you're at step 0. You've
Yeah,
got to take step 1. Then you might be able to see step 2, maybe
right.
even step 3. And once you get to
Absolutely.
step 3,
Yeah.
you might see step 4 and 5. You might even see a fork in the road,
Yeah.
where there's two choices now that you couldn't
Yeah.
see back from step 1. You just have to take
Absolutely.
that step. So, Ryan,
Absolutely.
man, music to my ears. This is absolutely incredible. For the listener
Yeah.
who wants to find you, follow you, buy your book, etc., can you tell them where they can chase you down?
They can do that at ryanleak.com. It's got everything there. We put it all in one place for you. So you can buy the book there, you can listen to podcasts there, you can do all things Ryan Leak at ryanleak.com.
All right. And for the listener, we'll have that link, ryanleak.com. We'll have that in the action plan, as well as links to his social media, where you can buy his book, etc., all in the action plan. As always, at jimharshawjr.com/action. Ryan, thanks so much for making time to come on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.